What's going down, people? It's your boy Myer back again with another episode of Here for the Dads podcast. Today, we got my boy Darian from Daddyin Since, the Cool Dads Club. You've probably already heard of him. You're probably wearing some of his gear right now. But what you may not have done is had a chance to sit down and ask all the questions that you wanna ask, and that's something I haven't gotten to do. I want to know more about his journey. I want to know more about why he got this thing started, and just like to touch on fatherhood. So what I'm going to allow him to do is I'm going to pass the mic over to him and allow him to introduce himself. What's going on, Dan? How you doing today, man?
Hey, man, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you giving your platform and your space to have this conversation with me. And just everything that you're doing for here for the dads. I take my hat off to you. I love what you're doing. I'm glad we finally get a chance to connect.
Absolutely, man. And ain't this cool, bro? We get to do this. Like,
Yeah,
it
it
every day.
is. It's crazy. Like I think we've already established that we know certain people. So it's crazy how it's just coming full circle.
Right.
Like
Like you
it's
usually connect during sports and stuff like that. We
mhm.
connecting in like a fatherhood. Like
Yeah, and
that's
that's rare, and that's rare, and I'm
that is
glad
very
that
rare.
we're shining the light on that, and that's part of my mission and a part of yours. So it's only right that we do it together.
Absolutely.
But as you said, my name is Darian Bryant. I'm the founder of Daddyin Since, and Daddyin Since is a conversational athleisure brand for the healing and humanizing of dads. And essentially, the brand got started. I was having a conversation with one of my friends who's having a hard time in his parenting journey in the co parenting space. And he was just having difficulties. And I was trying to affirm him and let him know, like, look, man, you're doing everything that you can do as a father. You're exceeding expectations and stereotypes that are placed upon you. And you're not new to this. You're true to this. You've been daddying since 2014. And I was like, daddying since. So, after that conversation, I ended up having a conversation with my dad. My parents divorced when I was in the fifth grade. And although my dad was active in my life throughout the time, there was still some unresolved feelings when he moved out of state that we didn't really touch on. And it wasn't until I became a father that, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to reach back and try to get some advice. So me and my dad had a conversation where I was just able to really tell him stuff that I was dealing with, tell him how things in my childhood impacted my journey as a father or just my life, and give him an opportunity to share his perspective and things that he dealt with. And from that conversation, we were both able to heal. But more importantly, I was able to humanize him as a man because as children we look at our parents, we put them on a pedestal and we think that they can do no wrong, but they were people first. So after having that conversation with those two people, I really was just like on a journey to change the narrative that's associated with fatherhood. So Daddy and Sense just kept sticking with me, just kept ringing in my head, and I created customizable T-shirts for the year you became a dad. So like Daddy and Since 2011, Daddy and Since whenever, 1 year for Father's Day, and to my surprise, they were a hit. They went fast, and everybody wanted one. And I was like, okay, okay, but I was starting to think that that wasn't too scalable. I wanted something that was more centralized. So I came up with the Cool Dads Club, and the Cool Dads Club is it's twofold. When I'm out and somebody sees this, they're, oh, how can I be a part of the Cool Dads Club? Or
I
they
love
want to share their journey in fatherhood, and we're able to connect in that manner. But also it's a reminder to self. You look at yourself, one day you look in the mirror, you don't recognize who you are. Your job, bills, family, everything is taken over, and you've lost who you are as a person. So the Cool Dads Club is a reminder, like, hey, you still him. Like prior to you being a dad, or even with you being a husband, you're still him. Don't lose sight of who you are. Don't lose sight of your passions, while making sure that you're uplifting your family.
Absolutely, man. That is beautiful. And you can go to the About Me page and read as much as you want on his website, but you're not gonna get it like that. Like that,
Yeah.
getting the whole idea of the journey, what got you there. And I think there's a lot of fathers that can resonate with that. Like from all the way to having your first child, not feeling prepared, and like, where do I go to get these answers? If you have a
Mhm.
chance to get in a relationship or to have a conversation with your father, I think that might be a great place to start for you. I don't know what the relationship like was for you at that time when you first had your first child, to go back. What were the emotions like before reaching out to your dad to ask him like, give me more perspective? Hey, equip me more. Like, let's talk about
Mhm.
this or that. What were some of those emotions like?
So like I said, even though my parents divorced, my dad's always been active in my life. It was just from out of state. So I would go visit him, my siblings and I would go visit him out of state. He just wasn't actually in the home. So I actually attended Alabama A&M and the Alabama A&M. And
That's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for
you
it.
know, I just had to throw it out there. I don't know if you see the degrees up there, but anyway, I attended Alabama A&M University, and my father doesn't reside too far from here, so I would go to his house on weekends, and that was a chance for us to reconnect and strengthen our bond. Then, so when I found out that I was having a child, I had just graduated from college, and I just got my first apartment. I'm working, I'm living life. I'm in a frat and everything's great. Now it's just like I find out that I'm about to be a dad.
Yeah.
So my world just stopped. Like, what am I going to do? But some of the emotions that I was going through, not wanting to repeat the same mistakes or the same things that occurred in my childhood. I didn't want to raise my son in a broken home. That was one of the biggest things. And I wanted to talk to my dad about, after you and my mother divorced, I had these feelings that I wasn't able to express, and that really stuck with me. And I need to know, why things ended the way they did. And from your perspective, what could you have done as a father to make things work and make it better? So it was a lot of just curiosity, anxiousness, just looking for reassurance that I would be okay in the process. And from, like I said, that conversation, he bared his soul and I bared my soul. And that really strengthened our relationship and made it to where I would feel comfortable coming to him anytime something would come up. Like, hey, me and my son's mom, we're going through this. I don't know what to do. Like, I need your advice. What would you do? And my father is a pastor, so he would always revert me back to the word. God says this. God says this. Stay in your Bible. And that really helped me through that time of being unsure and not being confident in my ability to be as a dad, and even in my journey today. So yeah.
That's super helpful too. Like to be able to build those lines of connection again and to be able to create that space for yourself. And like you said, we do put our parents on a pedestal. But we
Hmm.
do know as kids when growing up, we don't know nothing.
Right.
Even if we don't listen to our parents at times, we know we don't have the answer. We don't
Hmm.
ever think to ourselves that they might not have the answers.
I was just about to say that
That doesn't
exactly.
even cross my mind. As a
Hmm.
child, you think they know everything. My son asked me yesterday, he's like watching the game. He's like, Daddy, how far is Arkansas? I'm like, man, I don't know. Like I'm gonna go on Google, I'm gonna go on, ask Chat GPT. I'm gonna see the same
Hmm.
things that maybe you might have access to. But that's just a simple example of children expect for us to know everything because they don't see us like
Right.
well, of course we're not their peers, right? But they see us as a superhero. They see us as
Hmm.
we got all the answers. We don't get things wrong. We don't
We're not
cry or
human.
get upset or whine, but we do. We do those
Yeah.
things too.
And I think it's important to note that, even when you find out that they don't have the answers or if they can't properly articulate the answer that you're looking for, that you allow that space for grace because you don't always have the
Yep.
answers. And in dealing with your own children, you may get frustrated or having a bad day and take it out on them. Nobody's perfect. So I think being able to extend grace to our parents is as equally important as looking for advice.
And that's important that you talked about, like not having answers and then how you're feeling. I'm thinking about the emotions. I often talk about how hard it is to control and to help your children through their emotions and how they're feeling. But it's also hard to control our own emotions and how we're
Mhm.
feeling. Me and my wife, we're not saying it's bad to spank or this is that, but we're taking the approach in our parenting style to not spank or to go there first or anything like that. What that has shown me is that I have to find other ways to control how I feel and to discipline my children. And that has been a challenge. And I remember even
Mhm.
talking to my mom on the phone one time on FaceTime, and one of the 2 year olds or the 4 year olds, I don't even remember who it was, had said something like no, or like responded no to her or something like that. It was just kind of wilding out, right? Just not trying to listen. And she was like, what he need is a whooping. You need to spank that boy. You need to do this. And I was like, Mom,
Mhm.
he don't even know what that is. Like he has no clue. She was like, "You want me to spank?" I was like, "Mom, he don't know what that is."
Well, I introduce him to it.
Right? Yeah, she said like, I'm gonna go get the belt," and I was like, "Mom, if you bring a belt to my 4-year-old, he gonna put it on because he has no clue." But what it shows me is that not anything wrong to our parents or that generation or anything like that, but at times they were able to just shift over to doing this style of discipline and kind of dismiss their feelings or emotions in the moment. But what I
Mhm.
have to do is when I have those feelings or emotions in the moment, I have to be the one. I can't take it to the belt or take it to the spanking or take it to whatever. I have to control myself, figure out what I'm going to do, and then administer whatever discipline consequence or whatever I want to. And
Yeah.
it's helpful sometimes for me to even have the conversation with my parents about like, did you have a conversation about like if you were going to spank or not? Like, did it have to do with your environment that you were in? Can you help me build some perspective of why or how I was brought up using this style or that style? Did you have a conversation at all? Did you just do whatever was taught to
And
you or
that
what you were used to? So
I
can
can
you
answer
elaborate
that
on
for you. No, they
that?
didn't.
Yeah, it's growth. It's
It's
learning
just,
that was
it's just learned behavior. And like that's something, it's so interesting that you talk about that because when I first had my son, like I said, I was fresh out of college and I was raised in the household, spare the rod, spoil the child.
yeah, that's the
So it
first
wasn't
thing.
it wasn't too much talking. It was that belt, that
Uh,
extension cord, that whatever I can get my hands on. And my mom was doing the swinging. Like my dad, he was, yeah, my dad,
mine too. It was my
he would,
mama.
yeah, he was. My father disciplined me and he would talk to me, but my mama was the one that was quick to sling that iron. So when I, so when I first had my son, that's what I knew. It was, oh, you not listening to me, you being disrespectful, put my hands on you. And now that I've grown and I've seen how he didn't respond to that and how, it affected him. Now I go back and my wife always tells me I'm easier on him than I am the girls because I'm quick to get with them like, "Nah, nah, 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 nah." And with
Mm,
him, I'm like, calm down, like breathe.
that's what you
And
do.
it's because I'm thinking about how I used to just be on his butt and how I didn't give him an opportunity to do that. So
Right.
I'm trying to manage that, not putting my hands on my daughters, but I'm quick to, what I'm saying, get
Yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
them. So it's like that's a very good point in regards to just being able to manage your emotions and taking a second to not just fly off at the handle and really have those conversations with your kids. And that's currently what I'm working on. Like, look, daddy shouldn't have got upset.
And I got
I
a
was
question.
upset because you did X, Y, and Z and you weren't listening.
There we go.
In the future, I need you to do this. And also, like I said, you gotta be real with your kids. They may be young, but daddy's not perfect.
Yeah.
I can only work to be better. I can only ask that you forgive me in my moment of acting outside of myself or not being the best version of myself, and know that I love you and that I'm going to continue to work to be better, just like I need for you to continue to work to listen. So, yeah,
It's so helpful. Like
but we
my
definitely
heart
weren't
is
getting
right
that.
is protect your kids' intelligence. Like
Mhm.
you can have a conversation with your kids.
Right.
It's just not always easy, and sometimes it takes time. That's what
Hmm.
parenting is. Slow your butt down and take a chance to talk to your kids to a way that they understand or figure out a way for them to understand. And if they're
Yeah.
not understanding something, that's a chance for you to start learning your kid a little bit more. Like,
And learning yourself.
yeah, and learn yourself. Like, bro, I
Hmm.
used to be so quick, dog. Like, you might get one or two times out of me to say something. If I say it once, you ought to be moving. Like, I done already said it. What am I? I'm not gonna repeat myself. Like, and I'm sure there's 100 phrases that we can bring from our parents that they've said that I want to say to our kids too. But it's like I expect that to happen. But what I'm doing is I'm operating from an adult standpoint and from what I remember in my household. Now, I don't remember what it was like when I was 2, 3, 4 years old, but I remember when I was 6, 7, and my mom said this, I hopped to it. But my kids
Hmm.
aren't at that age yet. So I can't expect them to hop to it like that. Give myself grace and give them grace to learn it too. It might take
Right.
a couple times. I'm not gonna go in there, hey, I keep telling you every day, wash your face, brush your teeth, before you step out the house, put lotion on. Like they're gonna have to learn it, and I got to give them
Hmm.
space to learn and stuff too. They're not adults, and there's some adults who don't who don't operate like that, and they need to be
Exactly.
told a couple times. So I think we're definitely on the same page when it comes to that. But I want to know more because you mentioned your girls and you mentioned your son. Talk to me about like their ages. Tell me a little bit more about
Right.
like your fatherhood journey after college and all that good stuff.
All right. So yeah, like I mentioned, after college, I had my firstborn, my son. Me and his mother were young. She was in college. I had just graduated. We were down here by ourselves, just trying to figure it out. I told you I didn't want to repeat the cycles that I had seen in my family. But to be honest, I just wasn't ready to be in that type of relationship. Like I thought I was, but I wasn't. But I knew that regardless of us being in a relationship, I knew that I wasn't going to leave my son. Like that never crossed my mind.
Mm.
So me and his mother did go our separate ways. But I've been with him every day, regardless if I'm like picking him up from school or dropping him off, or I see him or I talk to him. Like there's never been a day that I haven't been in his life. After his mother and I separated, I met my wife, who's my wife now,
Gotcha.
and she had a daughter coming into it. So now it's a new dynamic. I have a child, you have a child, and we're introducing them. And now we're sort of creating a blended family, right? So
Mhm.
now it's a dynamic from co parenting and blending. So I'm getting it from both sides, trying to navigate fatherhood from different perspectives or different lenses. We continue to date, we get married, we start having children. Now we have two girls. So the ages are 13, 12, 6, and 2. So me and my son, we're outnumbered by girls. It's just me.
Yeah.
It's me, him, and the dog. Like that's 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 the only testosterone in the house right now. So like I said, it's a challenge because I went from being a dad of a boy and raising him to now being surrounded by girls, and I got to think about feelings, and I have to think not that we don't think about
Right,
our
right.
son's feelings, right?
Right.
But little boys don't operate in feelings or emotions like that. They jumping off of couches
Yeah.
and trying to do wrestling moves.
Mhm.
Now I have to learn how to become softer and, like you said, manage your emotions and think about how my actions are impacting how you feel. So that was a journey in itself and one that I'm still working on. But as far as the dynamic, like I said, I have a co-parent relationship that I have to manage and be present in. And then I have a wife that I have to manage and a blended family that I have to manage. So my story is a little bit different than most dads, but I
And
think
there's a lot of dads in that position though. Like this is the conversation. It's crazy that we're having this conversation today because I just reached out to the fatherhood group or tribe, and I was like, hey, I need to have a conversation. I want to have some hard conversations about blended families. I want guys
yeah,
to talk about it more because I know a lot of people in those positions, but I'm not hearing fathers talking about it. You know what I mean? I'm
yeah,
not hearing about the good, the bad. It's just you might get here and there conversations or scenarios that you might see or clips being posted on Instagram, but I never get to see like the face to face. So it's good that we're having that. And I want to really make that one of our main topics today, if you don't mind. But before
nah,
we
let's
get
go.
there, because you
Hmm.
mentioned how you were raising your son and what you're used to and understanding how he operated and not necessarily operating in feelings, but out of his energy. And then
Hmm.
recognizing you had to be softer to get your children, your daughters to respond and how you responded to them. What did having girls after having your first boy teach you about raising your son, and did it change the way that you operated with your son as well?
So yeah, it's interesting that you say that. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. Boys have emotions just like girls have emotions, right? And I think society raises men to believe that you have to be strong and that you have to withhold your emotions. And if you display your emotions, you weak or you lame, or that's not what a man does. That's what women do. So I think in having my daughters and really being there with them, it forced me to look at, what's a man? And who do I want my son to be? Do I want to regurgitate stereotypes or things that I've felt been placed upon me? Or do I want for him to have a holistic view of what a man should be? So when I talk to my son about being a man, I look at it as a man is someone who take care of his family, who takes care of his responsibilities, who stands on his position. And I talked to him about not letting someone make you feel as if you aren't able to vocalize how you feel or make you feel inferior for wanting to do that. And I've learned that from raising girls, like them being scared to talk to me, but going to talk to mommy because I may give a harsh demeanor or, I'm not soft enough in that manner. So I have to soften myself. And he's gonna have to do the same thing. It doesn't make you weak to soften yourself, it makes you human.
There we go.
So being able to have empathy, being able to be true to yourself and how you're feeling and what that looks like. Those are things that I learned from my girls, but it's important that I share that with my son so that he is whole and he's not just buying into you got to be tough all the time. You got to be a tough guy because that's not what manhood is.
Wow. That so that he is whole. Like like I'm hearing that and it feels good. I feel like the little boy in me is hearing that. Like you need to be whole.
Because
Because I
we
think
didn't get that. We didn't get
we
that.
didn't get that. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe there was some that did, but the majority of what we were taught and what we seen were not whole because we didn't know that we were allowed to feel that. Like we didn't know that that was an option.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about the boys because let's say you didn't give that to your son or you weren't giving this to your son. Your daughters are also learning this is what a man should be or what a boy should
Mm-hmm.
be.
Right.
So then when they have a father, I mean, excuse me, when they have a husband, now they're saying, well, you can't be this. You can't be that. Like that's weakness. It must be weakness. My daddy won't like that. My brothers ain't like that. So if you're not what I was taught and what I'm familiar with, then this must not also be healthy. Like you got a problem. And we got
Mm-hmm.
to recognize as fathers, we are teaching an entire generation when we're teaching our
Facts.
kids that.
Yeah.
And it's
Facts.
important that you also share that you started with yourself. What does it mean for me to be a man? What does a man do? Because once you first can then go back and heal yourself, understand what you're missing, make yourself whole, now you can also do that for the people in your household. That's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, bro. I appreciate that.
Nah, I think that was a perfect recap of like the sentiment. Like you said, it's about I think something what was powerful in what you just said was we're teaching generations.
Mm, mhm,
It's not us. And I don't think we think about that. We think about our children because it's a direct impact to what we're doing in our daily lives. But what we're teaching our children is going to affect them in their lives, which is going to affect their children, which is going to affect their children.
yes.
And it starts with us. So yeah, I didn't think about it like that until you just said it. But when you said it, it kind of stuck here
Yeah,
as a reminder, like, hey man, this is bigger than you. And
absolutely.
I think that's if you want to title this this interview, that's it. It's
Yeah,
bigger than you. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I didn't recognize that for myself either. It took, I mean, only a couple months ago, like my mentor would always get like really happy when we said we're having another child, right? I'm just thinking like, oh, he just loves babies. But he finally explained to me, it was like more good people need to have kids. And I'm like,
Mm,
okay, what does that mean? Like why? Because good people are gonna raise good kids who are gonna turn into good people. So the more people you are having and treating them to be good, it's more good you're putting out to the world. And I'm like,
mm-hmm.
we're raising generations. We
Right.
gotta remember that.
Yeah. I was reading something in the Bible today that was talking about just, the family staying together essentially, man and wife to stay together. Because if they don't, loosely based, it was like your children would become unclean.
Mm,
Like, and it talks about, you know, to what relating to what we're talking about, us impacting our children and how it's going to affect them in the future. I don't want to have my children be quote unquote unclean. I don't want them to take the trauma or things that were impacted in my life forward.
mm,
So we have to be mindful of the interactions with ourselves, with our spouses, if we're in marriages, all that plays a role in how our children are going to grow up. So your mentor is saying more good people need to have children. He's saying that we need to populate so that there could be more good in the world, so that they can have better examples, so our children can have equally yoked partners
There we
so
go.
that they could start families with and continue. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. I didn't
Like
think I could take it to the next level.
you didn't think about it like that, but that's
Yeah.
like I said, I read that this morning. But you having more children, our relationship continuing. I know what type of family that you're raising, the standards and the morals that you're raising. Not having an arranged marriage or nothing, but
Yeah.
my kid meets your kid, they gonna have two great examples of a foundation, right? And they're gonna be able to talk about and understand how to be whole in their feelings, and this is what a man looks like, and this is how you should treat a woman. Now they come together. They're gonna be able to share that with their children. And it breaks the cycle that we're currently living in. So yeah.
And you got to think about like why did they even have to have arranged marriages? And part of that was I need to know the type of family you're going to be getting into. But if we have
Mhm.
more good people having good kids or turning into good people, and there's more out there in the world, it's like I don't feel like I have to arrange anything. It's mad good
Right.
people out there. Like, how would that feel? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not
Hmm.
gonna live in a utopia or anything like that, and I get that. But the fact that you were able to expand that for me even further was incredible, and I appreciate that. I
Nah.
want to talk. I want to talk more about blended family. Like, there's so many different stages of life, and there's so many different positions that we find ourselves in. I know for me, I was like, man, I wasn't sure I was even gonna make it into college. Now I'm here in college. I get to play football. I get to do this. Oh, so now I'm a boyfriend. I've done that before. That's cool. But now I'm a president of an organization. I never did that before. A new position. Then you get out. Okay, now I'm somebody in a career. I'm a commissioned officer. Okay, new position. Let me learn this. Father. Okay, new. Husband. New. Like all this stuff is new. And now you're like, okay, now I'm co-parenting. I'm a stepdad. I'm like the positions in life constantly change and we don't always get to choose them. But when we're
Hmm.
in it, we have to make some decisions. We have to choose
Right.
certain things for ourselves. So if you don't mind, kind of go into like your thoughts, your journey into walking into a blended family. What were you thinking before, like when it was first brought up to you, like, hey, my name is so and so, I have, a child. Like give me that version and how you felt and what you were thinking. And then when you actually got into the relationship, how things were, and then where you are now. I know there's like three different phases and a lot of
So
questions.
yeah. Initially, when we were introduced, I wasn't thinking about having a blended family. I was in the mindset that I didn't want to date a woman with a child, regardless of me having a child and expecting that you take, this is my child, he comes with me, we're a package. I wasn't interested in doing that. So
Right.
that was real selfish and narrow minded on myself. But when I met my wife, she made it very clear. Like, if you like me, you gonna like my daughter
You
because
like
we're
us.
a package deal. And so I was like, I respect that. I needed someone to challenge me in that aspect. Um, I have tattooed First Corinthians 13 and 11, talking about that. When I was a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. And that was dedicated to my son because I feel like I was very immature and selfish at that age. But when I had him, as all these first started happening, I had to learn and I had to start putting away childish things because once again, it's bigger than me, right? I got a son now, I got to do for him. So my wife and I, we get together. Now we have two children. I'm used to him, but you got a girl, you have a daughter, and I'm not used to that dynamic.
How
So
how old was she then?
she was like 2, he was 3,
Okay.
around that age.
Okay, so very close.
Yeah, they're very close in age. Um, like I said, I wasn't used to that, so it was very challenging in the beginning. As far as the emotions, I would say, like
Hers or yours?
hers. I wouldn't say mine, because I feel like I'm pretty chill and laid back. But her being a little girl and she's sensitive anyway, she was a very emotional child, very like cried a lot, and it's just like, it's like, what did I get myself into, right?
Yeah.
But as things got more serious with me and her mother, I could start seeing a life with her. So I was like, if we gonna do this, we gonna do this. And you talk about the challenges of blended families. there were challenges in regards to, hey, I don't think you treat my child with the same love that you treat your child. Like, there's a difference.
Yeah.
I need you to, if we're gonna be together, I need you to reel it in on both parts. Like, hey, if we gonna do this, I need you to step in as this role. I need you to step in this role, both parts. So that took adjusting. Like, yeah, you have a father, but if I'm going to be here, I need to be there for
Man, how
you. And
hard was
that was kind of like, in the beginning, I was very hesitant because
that?
I knew for me, I didn't want another man around my son, right? This is my son. Like, you stay back. When his mother started dating, that, and even that was immaturity. Now, his mother has been with her partner for a long time, and he treats my son with the utmost respect. He doesn't interfere. He doesn't try to overstep his boundaries as a father, but he loves him as one. So it took a while for me to get to the mature level where I could be like, I respect you as a man and I appreciate you for doing that, because a lot of men don't, right?
Yeah.
So in the beginning, I was hesitant to try to like overstep, like, oh yeah, she mine
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And it's like, let me just chill. Like,
Yeah.
I'm present. In my mind, I'm here. I'm present. I'm taking care of you. So I love you, right? But that doesn't always equate to being a father, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
Being a father has many levels, and me and my wife have had many, many, many conversations in regards to presence and making sure you are active in the children's life on more than just the financial, but making sure that you're involved in their interest and letting them know that you support them and that, hey, I'm here. And I haven't always got it right. I'm still working on it today, but early on in the relationship, that was a big hesitancy on my part. Like, I don't want to overstep my boundaries, right? Time goes on, we continue to blend our family. We get married. Now we have a child of our own. Now I have a girl who came from me, and that changed my life drastically. Like, having her, like, sure, I had my stepdaughter and she was in my life, and I love her and I see her as a child. But when this one came out, my 6-year old, she came out attached at the hip, and she's still attached at the hip. So now that makes me look at my relationship with my 12-year-old like, I could have done better. I need to do better, right? To
Mm-hmm.
let you know that I support you and that I feel you. And that's something that we working on now, right?
Wow.
So we go from being apart, coming together, trying to raise two small kids, make a blended family work, make sure that everybody feels loved, supported, respected, having another child come into the mix who kind of brings the family all together, to having another child who just turned our world upside down because we didn't think we were gonna have any more kids. And now our 2-year old's here. She runs
Hey.
everything. She runs everything. Like, we were done. We had our baby that completed the circle. But now our 2-year old's here and she's like, I don't know what y'all talking about. Like,
Man,
this my house now.
well,
So
I don't know what y'all got going on. I'm glad y'all been working y'all things out, but I got a few rules and a few things we about to put in place.
exactly, exactly. But what I've learned from that is that each child is different. Each child needs something different from you. And it's all about navigating that space as a dad of what your child needs and how to pour into them so that they can feel whole. And that's the journey I am presently on, just making sure that everybody gets it how they need it.
Man, you touched on a lot, and I do truly appreciate it. What I heard you say were a few key terms that popped up in my head. I heard
Mhm.
boundaries, like creating boundaries and understanding where your boundaries are. And sometimes the only way to figure out where the boundary is to touch it.
Right.
you don't really, you don't really know. And then something else you might not have used the word, but I heard like pride. You were taking pride in having your child and having being like the stepdad. Like, this is mine, like, or nobody's gonna do this or be this for my son because this is and that. And I recognize that sometimes pride can get in your way, but you don't
Hmm.
recognize you have it until it starts bumping into things, right? And you feel like, oh
Exactly.
man, my ego's so big I can't even get into this door. But you have to also respect. You talked about respect too. And these are just key terms and things that I think you have to make bubbles when you're talking about blended families. and understanding where you are and having those conversations. And you mentioned one of the conversations that you had to have. What do you think would be probably the most important conversations for a father to have when knowing that they're going to be entering into a blended family?
Um, I think it's two different conversations that you need to have when entering into a blended family. One, with your partner that you're blending the family with, you gotta make sure that y'all on the same page in regards to the direction and the path for the family. Like, look, this is where we're going. This is what's expected. This is what I need. What do you need? How are we raising these children as a family? Like, I don't think that we had those conversations when we did it. We kind of just jumped in like, hey, I like you. I like you too.
Got you.
And then we just
Yeah, took off.
took off for the races. And then we just been, bumping our heads and trying to figure it out on the way. But I would definitely say before, making those steps and trying to introduce your kids to each other, definitely sit with each other and get in alignment in regards to what family looks like to you. What are the values that you hold? What are the values that you want to instill in the children? Make sure that you're on one accord. I think that's a very big conversation that needs to happen. Vital, honestly. And then after you have that conversation and you and your partner are on one accord, have a conversation with the children. Me and your mother or me and your father, we like each other, we love each other, and we want to come together and raise you all as a family. I understand that I'm not your mother, or I understand that I'm not your father, but I love you as if you're my own. I want you to always know that I'm going to be here. I'm not to, whether it's just the ear to listen or in whatever capacity that you need, I want you to feel comfortable doing that and know that I got you. I want you to know that regardless of your relationship with your biological parent, I wouldn't disrespect that or you. Look at me as a shoulder to lean on. Look at me as whatever. I would say that just letting the child know that, hey, you're important to me, just like they're important to me. Like making them feel seen and valued is the gist of the conversation that needs to happen with the children. Because, like I said, when life gets to life and think outside interferences occur, children aren't always going to be the forefront, or they may feel some type of way and they may not feel comfortable expressing that. So if they have that foundation in the beginning, like, hey, you matter, I love you, we in this together, we all family, maybe those when instances like that come up, they'll be able to be resolved quicker, or those conversations will be able to be had easier. And it will just make for a stronger family unit.
I like that. And there's something you mentioned in there, and this might be a silly question. It's taking how it is or how it comes out. It could even be like extremely general, but I could see some fathers possibly being in that situation or having an idea about it as they enter into a blended family. But how do you love a child that is not yours? Like what does that
that's
look like?
that's not a silly question, and you know it comes up like this isn't your child. How do you love him? I was told by someone in the past that it takes a special man to love a child that's not his. When I think about loving a child, for one, the child didn't ask to be here, right? That was a decision that was made by the parents. The child didn't ask to be here. The child should always be protected, right? That's the first thing. When I think about loving a child that's not yours, if I'm providing for you, if you living under my roof, I'm taking care of you. I'm coming to support you in your extracurricular activities. I'm looking at you as my child, so I love you. Like I don't see how men can be with a person who has kids and not consider themselves loving that child if they're present, if they're around. Like it's a child. If I helped raise you, I may like I said, we all have to extend grace. We all have to get to a point where we're not perfect. You may not get it completely right, but if I'm giving myself to you, it's because I love you. It's important to let the child know that and make sure that the child understands that. And I think that's where the conversations, to your point, come from. How do you love a child that's not yours? You love them just like you love your child. If you're gonna be there, it ain't no, this isn't my child. This is my child too.
I think you adding in the part of showing up, going to the extracurricular activities, providing, all of those is the first step. So for the fathers who are maybe asking themselves that question as they're thinking about entering into those relationships or blended family, you just don't know where to start. Show up for that child the same way you show up for your child. If you already
Exactly.
have one, and if you don't, start by showing up. Start by learning their tendencies, their character, what they like, showing up to things that they do, having lunch with them. And what you're going to find yourself doing is building relational equity. And as you start to build that relational equity and you're doing these things for them and they're reciprocating, that's love. It's
Right.
like it's gonna happen.
That's you falling in love with the child.
There we
Like you
go.
may, you know what I'm saying? It may be awkward at first, but as time goes on and you continue to put in that work, that feeling is there. I think, but like I said, I think the most important part is reassuring and affirming that the child knows that.
Mm.
And that's where, you know, things can get tricky. You may look at it like, oh yeah, I do X, Y, and Z. You know I love you. You should know I love you. But if they not receiving love how they receive it,
Mm.
or how, you know, what they view as love,
Mhm.
you know,
And that's why I
then you
say you
got a
got to
different
learn them.
situation on your hands.
You have to learn them to make sure that they're also receiving love the way that they know how. And as we're thinking about these conversations that we have to have, because you mentioned the first conversation and the second conversation, and the first one, if I remember correctly, being on the same page. Be on the
Yeah.
same page, have those conversations, and the second one is talking to your kids about it. Understanding that that is your household, and that there's another household who also hopefully did the same thing. How do you make those two work? Do you have a conversation with them about what they're on the same page about, what they care about, what they're trying to do, how they're trying to raise them? Do you try to add theirs into yours and make sure it
Hmm.
aligns? Because then what I'm doing is trying to put myself in the position of the child, and hopefully, not a lot of times those two, I guess, paths or journeys that the households are trying to put together clash. But there are times when they do. But if I'm the
Hmm.
child and I'm supposed to be respectful, I'm supposed to follow, and I'm going back and forth, and there's some co-parenting happening, there could be some mix and some pull and pushing back and forth. As a father, like, what do you do? How do you make sure that that doesn't happen? Is there conversations that need to be had? Can you walk me through that?
Man, how long you got? Like, you want to go get some popcorn? Cause we gonna be here a minute. Um, especially in, like you said, me coming in me having a relationship where I'm trying to blend the family, but I'm also co-parenting. When I first had my son, like I said, I was young. I tried to separate the two. Like y'all be over here,
Yeah.
and then I got this over here. And by doing that, cause drama and cause issues in itself.
Really?
There's no way to have two separate lives. Like even though me and my son's mom are together, we still raising our kid over here. But I'm expecting you, my son, to come over here and then see this woman that I'm dating and expect her to fill the mother role over here
Wow.
without those two talking, and a lot of head bumping went on, a lot of arguments, a lot of fights, and it because I didn't handle the situation correctly as a father, right? You ask, how do you do that? Hopefully, all individuals that are as far as the adults that are involved in the situation are mature. And you need to have that sit down like, look, we're not together, right? But I'm trying to do this over here. I want to make sure that as the mother or the father of my child, you still are respected. But this is how I'm rocking. Like, this is how we're raising our kids over here. I'm not going to do anything to disrespect you and your household. If my son gets in trouble over here, but then he go to his mama house and then he get on the game,
Yep.
then he's not being disciplined. Don't touch your phone while you over here, but as soon as you go back to your mama house, nothing happened.
Yeah.
What is that doing? So you got to have the conversations, like I said, with your co-parent, so that y'all on the same page. This occurred while he was over here. I told him that he ain't getting his phone for a week. Like, I appreciate it if you stuck to that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. But it all revolves around the conversations. You can't just jump into stuff, even though I did. You can't just jump into stuff without having the conversations and laying the groundwork. That's what I would advise someone going into it.
That's good. And being respectful, understanding
Mm-hmm.
how to have hard conversation.
Yeah.
Like, there might not be 1,000 fatherhood books in the world, right? And of course, there's people who might look for them, but there's other ways and different avenues that you can learn to be a better parent from not just parenting books, learning how to influence people and how to talk to people correctly, kindly, and how to get what you want to say across. Because we go with number one, that would be, what do we want our household to look like? Number two,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk to the kid about it. Number three, now let's talk to the co parent about what we want and how we can work together to make it work for the child. Because that's what it's
Right.
about. It's about the
Because
child, right?
exactly.
You got to do
Because
those things.
one thing that can come up is feeling as if the co-parent has a place in your household when they shouldn't.
Mm. Talk to me.
You
Talk
know,
to me.
that's y'all household. And even like in marriage, other people shouldn't have an influence in y'all marriage,
Mm.
y'all household,
Yeah.
and between you and your partner.
Come on.
And when you allow other people to have influence or have a say or change perspective, it's off. That's not in alignment with God. So those conversations are necessary now. Like, hey, for as for me and mine, this is what we do.
That come on, man. And I always use Steve Harvey's uh, analogy and I guess the picture that he's put together when I'm talking about marriage. And my wife and I should be holding hands. We're the only two
Mhm.
that need to be holding. Whoever her friend is my friend. They're not gonna hold her hand or hold my hand. We're holding hands, and everybody else is on the inside of this. So whatever we built, they are on the inside. So if we say this is what we care about, this is our vision, and somebody else on the inside has a perspective, it can't make its way out without us. So it's got to come to us. Does this work for us? How can we figure this out? How can we talk about it to make sure it still works within our household? So I learned.
I would say with to your point, they shouldn't be on the inside. They
Talk
should
to
be
me.
on the outside.
Talk to me about it.
No one should be on the inside of your household other than the people that are in your household. You and your wife and your children. You and your wife holding hands and your children inside of
I
that
like
because
that.
y'all are protecting your children.
I like that.
Nobody else should be on the inside. It should be them. Anybody else, parents, friends, extended family, they on the outside. Their influence, perspective, feelings should not be able to come inward to your family. It's not about letting it out. It shouldn't be in
Mm.
because your family dynamic is what's whole. That's y'all house. That's y'all. That's you. The Bible says when a man leaves his mother and father, right?
Yeah.
Same with the wife. when we leave our parents, we moving forward with each other. They can't be on the inside of what we got going on. They got to be on the outside
Amen.
because we left them.
Mm.
So
I like that. I like that perspective. And I like the way you put it in the pictures that I'm having for it now. And for others that are hearing, it doesn't mean that you can't still reach out for advice or get help or create a village. It just means they should not have the type of influence that would change what you got going on with
mhm.
your significant other. That's
Right,
y'all stuff. It
right,
shouldn't make it in there without them. It shouldn't be no conversations happening on the phone and now you got a different idea what you want to do when you don't run it by your wife. That ain't how things go. At least that's not
exactly.
how it should go. And I love having the conversations about households and talking about it in terms of marriage too, because we do recognize that not everybody's married and not everybody's in that situation, but there are people who need to hear what that sounds like or want to be there as well, so they need to hear
Right.
from it. So I appreciate that too.
And
And
like I said, I got it twofold. I became a father out of wedlock. You know, this my parents, my father's a pastor, my parents were married. That's not what I wanted to do. So I had shamed myself, like, oh man, like, all right. I knew my mom was gonna trip when I told her that I was gonna have a kid. Like I was scared. I was scared to death to tell
man,
my mama that I was about to have a kid after college. Um, so yeah, I had my journey as a single dad in that nature, and journey as a married person. I'm still in that nature, so it's like I could see both sides
yeah,
of the coin.
and that puts together your entire journey.
Hmm.
Every seat, because it's all seasons. Like they could all look different, but you got to figure out what you're doing in each one of them.
Right.
There will be times where you feel lost. I promise you that. There's been so many times. Sometimes I feel lost in certain areas of my life right now, and I'm trying
Yeah.
to figure it out.
Same. Same.
That's when I have to take a step back and I have to pray. Like we talked about it before we hopped on here. Talked about praying. We talked a little bit about fasting. I can't act like I got it all figured out all the time. That's
Hmm.
not gonna happen.
Right.
I gotta have somewhere else where I can lean, and that is on my God. And that is going to the Bible. And that is slowing down enough to realize that I can't figure it all out by myself, and that I'm not gonna win the fight by myself every.
Right.
And I'm hopeful and helpful that I have that.
Yeah. That you hit it on the head. Like I said, I'm currently in the season right now, and as hard as it is, I'm just trying to remain faithful. That he got it, and you just got to give the battle to him. Like, look, I don't want it no more. Like I told him the other day, like I don't want it no more. I don't. Like I tried to do things my way and it ain't working. Here you go, big guy. Like
There
do
we go.
your thing.
There we go.
Like you know what I'm saying? Do your thing. Take it. Please take it. Please take it. And when I've been reading and listening, like he puts us through these seasons because that's when we're most vulnerable to listen to him. Because when things going good,
Yeah.
things going good. So during those seasons of your parenting journey, rely on God. Like, come to Him with your worries. This is what I'm going through. You know what I'm going through. I trust and believe that you're going to handle it. You know what my desire is, and I believe in you, so I know that you're going to make it happen. My pastor told me, well, he didn't tell me, but he was preaching on Sunday and he
Hey, it
told
feels
the
like you preaching that
congregation, but
though.
it came to me, right? I felt like he was
Yeah.
talking to me directly. He said, just look back at your track record. Every time you was praying for something to happen, you had worries. Then God come through. Why he gonna stop now?
Mm.
So
Bro,
let it
we
happen.
gotta stop right there. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I don't I don't I have no words. Like that's it. Didn't he come through?
He gonna come through, and it's bigger than you.
Come on, bro.
Bow, bow. That's it.
Gentlemen,
Drops mic.
y'all hear it right. Y'all heard it first. Before I hop off, man, I want you to tell the people how they can find you. I know that we'll probably do a part two because we had a main topic right now, but there's so much more that we can talk about.
For
But I want
sure.
people to know how they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at on Instagram. The brand is Daddyin Since. It's Daddyin Since Since. If you see something that resonates with you on that page, I encourage you to go to the website. And like I said, I wanted to create clothing that evoke conversation about fatherhood, because oftentimes dads, we talk about sports, we're talking about who won between Kendrick and Drake, but we're not talking about what impacted us or what we're going through presently, right? I wanted to create something that when you see it, starts those conversations like, oh yeah, I like that hoodie. Man, I appreciate that. What, you a dad? Oh yeah, I'm a dad. Tell me. And then what started as a 2 minute conversation ends up an hour long conversation in front of the shoe store. You know what I'm saying? I've had that experience. I went in to go get some Air Max at the mall. Someone saw my hoodie. Now we in the mall just sitting there talking about fatherhood. That doesn't happen on a regular, but that's my hope that it does. So if you see something that resonates with you, or if you believe in that mission, you can go to the website. It's www.daddyin, Daddyin hyphen sense.com.
My guy, I can't wait till I get my next hoodie. I
Man,
want some
I
crazy side on
appreciate
right
you.
now.
I appreciate you rocking it on that episode you had with Dez too,
Oh,
man.
absolutely, man. I wear that thing a lot, and because it's red, I could wear it to the Falcons game. Like I don't wear the jerseys and stuff like that when I go to the game. I wear stuff that will evoke conversations about fatherhood. So I've wore that
Mhm.
shirt before. I've wore my daddy stroller social club from Dallas hoodie out there, and I remember it was even fun because I grabbed like two other dads' hands, and there was a couple moms behind us with strollers, and we're just like walking through, and I got the stroller
Yeah,
club hoodie
yeah,
on. I
yeah.
was like, oh man, is this like an organization? Like, what's going on? So like, I love having those conversations, and I love doing that. But you guys heard it first. Get on the website, follow him on Instagram. Um, there's gonna be more of him. You're gonna hear more of him. You're gonna hear more from him. You're gonna hear more from us. But for now, here for the dads. Out.
Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you for watching. You just listened to Here for the Dads podcast with Myer. I am so grateful that you're here. But if you're new to this space, what I need you to do is slow down and subscribe, share, review, or rate whatever you can to help me out because I'm on a journey to create a space for existing fathers and new fathers that's going to allow them to be a little bit more confident and a little bit more efficient at what they're doing. Thank you.